Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining another Smart Density webinars. This one is particular because this is the first of a series of weekly webinars that we will be taking with the masterminds, so we call it behind some of the most exciting urban projects in different continents. So let me introduce myself really quick. My name is Mohsin Sadiq. I'm an architectural urban designer at Smart Density. And I want to say a few words about the space where I'm standing right now, because you see there is a model behind me and there's on the canvas about one of the project that we're going to be discussing. So I am at the World Urban Pavilion at Regent Park, where an exhibition in collaboration with Smart Density has been taking place for a few weeks now. And this exhibition is the result of a collaboration of Smart Density with the students of the School of Cities at the University of Toronto. And that studied and analyzed the development of 10 different neighborhoods around the globe. So we have projects in Europe, in North America, in Asia. So these 10 of very exciting projects. And the exhibition still continues up until November 8th. So part of the exhibition were two major events. So the first one was the presentation of what we call the new neighborhood guidebooks. I can show it to you here. And this is the new neighborhood guidebooks. It has all the studies and all the graphics explaining the designs of these 10 different projects. And today we will be discussing the Seestad Aspern. I hope I'm pronouncing it properly. That is in Vienna. So you can see the guidebook has all types of graphics and explanation of how these projects have grown and have been, and how major concept design were taken. And we have today someone who can talk to us about it in more of detail. Can you, hi, Johan, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Well, so as I was saying, so this part of this exhibition was a second was a second was a second event. Sorry, I see someone raising their hands. Can you write in the chat if you have any problems hearing me or have any technical issues? We've been experiencing a little bit of issues right now. And one more thing I want to add before introducing our speaker today is that part of the exhibition and a second event, it was more of a workshop that's called Solutions Labs that was focusing on government-owned lands and discussing ways to use them, especially in Canada and in Toronto. So, for example, the Solutions Lab, though.
See you now.
Yep, apologies. So as I was saying, there was a very interesting event that was bringing people from all types of institutions and organizations, both governmental and private, and who discussed ways and discussed bringing ideas of how these government lands, especially in downtown, in central areas of any cities, can produce large scale mixed income, mixed use developments. And for those who follow the newsletter or follow the news about smart density, you should receive a memo about basically summarizing the best ideas that were discussed. So now we're getting back to our to one of the projects that was shown, and we're very lucky today to have Johan Stavard, who is an architect and urban planner based in Stockholm from the Sweco Group, who's a leading European architecture and urban design firm in Europe. Hello, Jons. Thank you for joining us.
Hello. Poor you. You are struggling with technical issues. That's life.
Thank you so much. So, Johannes, you're an expert and jury member and process leader in complex urban design projects throughout Europe. We were very lucky to have you before on a webinar where you talked to us about transit-oriented development in Stockholm. And today you're telling us about this project in Vienna. Please Your floor is yours. Let's start this conversation.
Thank you so much. I'm just prepare my sharing of screen here. So let's see if I'm lucky. Do you see something?
Yes, we do see it.
Very good. Good morning, I guess, to all of you in Canada. This here we have a beautiful sunset and nice October colors, similar to yours. Well, thank you for the invitation here. I'll just give you a very quick run through of the project, and then we will have plenty of time to talk instead of me sitting here on my own. This is what I will show you is considered as Europe's biggest urban projects at the moment. It's a vast area. It's from 250 hectare towards 300 maybe in the long run. So it's very, very big. And it started off as a competition in 2006, an international architects competition with long list and short list, and then 10 proposals were handed in at the end, and I was the lucky one out in the end with this sketch here beside. And there are very few issues actually we can touch upon here in a few minutes. And what's actually, especially now, almost 20 years later, it's easy to look back at things, learn from mistakes, and learn from a long and very coherent process, or very consistent. It's been ongoing constantly for 20 years and probably another 10 years ahead. But the secrets, I would say, just to start off, is really it's a strong concept from an urban point of view. This 20-year of development process has fostered a very nice conversation and dialogue and collaboration among a very big around the table, so to speak. It's a very big team. And there were some, from very early on, some aspects of dare not to know and very collective efforts and of course also ways to initiate a project like this. So I'll just guide you through. This is one of the models down at the site in Vienna. This was formerly an airfield, a city airport, one could say, to Vienna, to the northeast. The whole engine here actually was at the time started in the 90s already, was sort of a financial model of how would it be possible to develop a large land parcel like this. And as you know, airports, they are not only the airports, the landing tracks or whatever. The airports are built up of or always surrounded by very, very big fringes of support activities. And that's why the airports are quite difficult sometimes to engage, or when the focus is changed, or when the uses are changed, then to integrate such thing in a urban fabric is of course very difficult. So this competition was really about finding a starting point, finding a structure, an urban structure and a concept, but also, of course, finding ways, long-term or long, what's the word? The connectivity in the very long run. And looking at the Vienna from above here, you can see the city center to the left, and the former airport then at the right. So it's of course quite a distance, but still within the urban area, so to speak. And the secret, of course, picking up the thread here of public transport, was already in the beginning The only success for this development was public transport. And here you can see the various lines of high-speed trains and metro line and all the rest of it. So that was already in the scheme at the very start. Another funny thing with the project was that the public transport system came into place already it started to be built in 2 years after the competition. And then this is an aerial view probably around 2010. And then the metro line in place, the groundwater lake in place. So the initiation of the project was very conscious from let's say, a political point of view. Looking at from the same angle, which is above, then almost 20 years later, you see that relatively big part of the development is underway. And not only that, the unbuilt blocks, the unbuilt spaces are already sort of in the sand by now. One of the, as I touched upon about converting an airport into an urban area is, of course, the yellow distance to people, to landscape, to a social context is extremely difficult. And in this kind of challenge, you can easily imagine why the plan looks like it does. It really tries to reach out. It's radial, and many of these orange connections maybe not occur in the long run, but they are there within Seestad itself. So when connectivity is welcomed into the neighborhoods, it could happen. So it's a sort of a reverse kind of a way of thinking, expecting connectivity in the very long run. So this is over several decades. If you look at the first step of the development, which is to the southwest, you can see how in the coming 10 years, probably, this is what it will look like when the circle is completed. The blocks have started to sort of step over various facing barriers. And what's also in the core of the whole concept is that, of course, there are some very big gestures in terms of sort of major streets or primary streets, but there are also these substructures interlocking the overall structure in various ways, which means that there is a contrast between the formal aspects, the overview, the ability to see and understand the urban structure, but also it's the opposite around always, these fine, smaller streets and spaces connecting. So these are just some images of what's there. Roughly 7,000 people live in Seestad at the moment, and many more will come. And the interesting thing is that, of course, for many of these people, this development will be their, or the building site, this enormous building site, will be their home for, be their entire childhood, and so it's a lot of effort has gone into how to stage a development like this, how to implement phases in a way that people can and even enjoy the constantly ongoing expansion of this small city in the city. And these are just examples of what I meant. There are big, sort of more formal streets, but always beside them, these smaller spaces, the connectivities, etc., the child-friendly parts, the calmer part. So there was this rhythm of busyness and calm across. Also, very typically for Seestad is it's somehow a little bit old-fashioned way of looking upon the city. There are defined courtyards. There's street elevations, or the wall to the streets, or the clear spaces in a traditional manner. But it's always an invitation from the inner spaces, from such as courtyard, into the more public ones. So very, very sort of fine boundaries between the private and the semi-public and the very open spaces.
These images are really amazing. It's very interesting to see.
No, but then of course there are some rules. 20 years later, we you can really see what mattered in the end. And of course, like ground floors, they are always raised. It's sort of 5 meter ground floor spaces. So shops and workshops and you name it occur slowly and steadily, more or less into the entire urban fabric, which is also simple things in the beginning, and fundamental things in the end, so to speak. And of course, life occur. It's not that shops or restaurants are architects' dreams only. They are a necessity for life and development, as you know. And just a final image here, and then we can go into a more interactive way of talking. Is this what I mentioned in the beginning? How do you wait? What's an active kind of waiting for a development? And the whole Seestad area has been over these 20 years some kind of experimental ground for temporary activities, for festivals. The Vienna Opera they always have performances here during the summer month on an open stage, etc. So there are so many ways, not only to bring in the infrastructure at the very beginning, before even houses. There were 2 stops with a metro line, but also as soon as people occur, life has been prepared, or life follows in other areas at the same time, making it actually to a destination as it is. I think that's roughly it. And sorry, I'm noticing I'm stumbling around here in my English, but let's stop there. Over to you.
Yeah. No, that is great. I have a few questions. I just want us to go back a little bit to have just a little bit more details about what you previously said. Just for us to know, how far is it from the city center? I would just want to understand how, when you talk about 2 subway lines, would you say, is it in terms of time, how long does it take typically to go from the city center to? Second thing is very major for this type of new developments, and is something you touch upon really quickly, is how do you create that first attraction? So you might have connectivity through transportation, etc., but the soul of the space like becomes is created through some kind of programming, etc. And you mentioned the difficulty to do it with services that are typically related to the use of the airport. So I think that is a major point. And then I would also ask you about the impact, like how it's not how would you what would you have done differently, but for example, especially coming to those beautiful urban spaces, and like how often are they used? What is your perception of how it was welcomed by the public at that time? And I have a lot of questions coming from attendees as well, so I'll let you answer these few questions, and I'll come back with the questions from our audience.
Okay, good. Remember, my memory is quite bad, so you already had too many questions, and I won't remember all of them at once. But
So
I can start off.
how
You had
far?
a very, very practical question. You still see my images, right? The map of Vienna. And so you can, if you follow these, for example, the red line means train. It's the train to Bratislava to, and from the Hauptbahnhof, as they say in German, from the central station, it's about 14 minutes to Seestad.
I see.
And with the orange line, which is the metro line, roughly 10 stops, it's maybe twice, so it's towards 30 minutes. And then the green lines are trams in the future. They are being implemented anytime right now. So it's outside Vienna definitely, but it's still in reachable, and those 28 minutes with the metro is not that
Yes.
far.
No, absolutely not. I mean, no, like we all come from Toronto. Like a 20-minute commute, 20 to 30-minute commute is very basic. So okay, so that just gives us a little bit more understanding of the scale. And so the second question was about the uses and the programming and how you make an area that is 30 minutes, that is a little bit outside of the city. How can you make it attractive when it already has more industrial or service uses?
Yeah. I mean, this was, of course, one of the big worries in the very beginning. First of all, if you look at it, it's looks quite absurd in a sense, quite almost academic, or it's really something that's been thrown out and landed from a different planet. And I think there are two issues here. How do you bring life? Of course, and the tools we have as urban planners is to try our best in governing and supporting the right atmosphere among people and clients, etc. And for example, as I mentioned, the raised ground floors, they are fundamental because if not, how would you fit a nice shop in here or a restaurant? So there are a couple of rules, but it also comes down to quality of space, to parks and streets, not the least. If you look here, if you examine the plan, it's quite a lot of streets pretending to be the public space, and they are the public space. They are very important public spaces, the streets, and I think that is considering the street as a key. That is Seestad. That's uh, that's what this plan is trying to do. And that comes, and then of course the rest of the orange grid here is our hope to it's a long-term hope that people start to walk through, and they already do, of course. It's a large neighborhood, and but of a different scale. And so this is this, and I think governing in a establishing good rules and good working culture with all these people, and and then slowly work, use knowledge, the knowledge we have from cities.
So just to clarify to our attendees, the orange lines that we see right now are not planned exactly, are not part, but it's the wish that you hope for, like in the future years, that they would connect to the immediate environment of the project. So I'm gonna come back to one of the questions I mentioned, and I'm gonna put it back with I'm gonna join it to one of the questions that is coming from the public, is the importance and type of interior public space. So you mentioned the streets as a major public space, and I think it's a very interesting idea to consider. But we would like to know a little bit more about, like, if you could speak to the size of individual building plots and their dimensions. What are the things that define them? The spacing, like the size of the courtyards, etc. And what is the process? What was the process for that for these development?
I mean, if you look, there are a couple of let's say the blocks you see in this picture. They were from my point of view, at least, or how I see the process, they were defined early on. And if you zoom into one of these blocks, you will see that most of them are roughly 70 by 70 meter or 70 by 60, or it's a very traditional urban, Western European inner city kind of proportions. And of course, that's just part of the secret, because there are many versions of this, as you can see just in this picture. If you look at the painted upper part of the picture, you see that they are more indicative and very schematic or schematic. Um, so so proportions, yeah, that's the simple answer to the question. Following the old traditions here, really, and then, but you can see here already that the individual architects or clients, they interpret these blocks differently. Some are quite mad, some are very traditional, etc. So that already, with this kind of robust, simple, the simple proportion and simple pattern, life occur in a sense, or the variation occur, and etc.
Per se. And so one more question from the attendees as well is they're curious about the lake and where the water comes from and how is it controlled, etc. So I know it is one of the first item that was put in place. So if you could speak to that, please.
Yeah. This is Vienna, of course. First of all, it was an airport, so it was flat. But this is the delta land of Danube, which means that the groundwater is very high. It's just roughly 2 to 3 meters below the surface of the soil, and it's a very quick moving groundwater. So this is a groundwater lake, digged out, 5 hectare big, and it's digged out, and suddenly there were water, and just a couple of months later, full of fish. That's always how is that possible? But yeah, so, and it's super clean water, and people are of course using it as their lake, swimming every morning. It's full of kids all the time,
Amazing.
and adults.
That's very
It's
interesting.
needless to say.
We're gonna be careful with that with people's times, and we're gonna allocate like a few last minute for maybe last thoughts. And I would say like my main question would be like, what were the challenges that you weren't expecting? Let's say like when you started 20 years ago and you're like, okay, this we didn't really account for, and maybe we should have. And then yeah, someone's asking it like in the same way, what would you have done differently? I would phrase it in like, what have you learned from this process, and like how, especially, and I understand like the difficulty of having very little constraint in a site that is very blank. And so what did you what were things that you were like, oh, this this could have been, we learned this today. This is one of the points uh that we should consider in future projects, for example, etc.
It's a super difficult question to answer, because that kind of open-hearted discussion and sort of revising the plan has been ongoing. So it's very difficult actually to say we should have done this instead, because the openness, or the very sort of, I would say, the best possible kind of dialogue was always there. So it's a gradual development. I used to compare it with a bowl of fresh fruit, that the bad fruits were picked out quite early.
Interesting.
And then, and it's constantly being revised, block by block, really. And so many experts from so many different angles are having their say, and the proposals are being very carefully evaluated step by step. So, but if I answer the opposite, what because in the very beginning, of course, we were extremely scared to even be part of the project, because looking at it, it's completely abstract, and the danger with such a project, we've seen it in the past, and that's why, because it can easily become this kind of isolated, not connected, not vibrant, just a dead sort of fragment of some kind of city outside the city. So this kind of these all these worries and sleepless nights, they fostered act, and everyone shared it, I would say, and that's why we this kind of eager to prove that it could work. And I think actually it works. I definitely think so. I'm receiving love letters from residents almost every day, and and which is spectacular. It's fantastic to experience
That's
such thing in life.
yes.
And yeah, so and one of the most sort of criticized things about this was, of course, this ring, because it meant that one couldn't stop this development because you can't just build half of it or a quarter of it, as you can see here. This very brave decision of looking at it as a whole was actually the most heavy criticized aspect of the proposal, but also, I think, the secret to a self-playing piano in the end.
Interesting. Oh, that's a beautiful note to to end on. Well, thank you so much, Johannes, and congratulations on this amazing projects. And I think, and I'm pretty sure all the people that were with us today very much enjoyed the presentations and learning about this amazing projects. And I think that's something you just mentioned is very interesting. It's very easy to end up with disconnected portion of the that becomes mostly residential, like a sleep room that is part of the city while all the activity is elsewhere. And it's such a great challenge that you managed to get with this project. So congratulations and thank you so much. For everyone, I'm gonna copy a couple of links in the chat that are answer. It's going to be part of the answers. Can I send them in the chat? Or I can just send them here. So we have two links to the neighborhood guidebook that has the information that you can find about the project that we saw and 9 other projects, including Regent Park in Toronto. And we have the a little bit more information about the event that was the Solutions Lab that was taking place right here in Regent Park. Thank you, Johannes, and I hope to hear from you soon. And everyone,
Hope to see you in Canada.
yes, we're waiting for you.
Well, let's discuss that after the meeting.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Ciao. Bye.